The knock at my door came at 11:32 p.m. It was his wife, mascara-streaked, shaking, barefoot. She didn't ask to come in. She just handed me her phone and said, "You need to see this." There they were. My wife, her husband. In a parked car, too familiar, too close. I'd spent 2 years trying to fix our marriage, thinking I was the problem. Turns out the problem was parked 2 driveways over. The thing about slow betrayals is you never hear them coming. Not like in the movies. No lipstick stains, no secret texts left open, no dramatic slamming of doors. Just silence. Shifts in tone. Changes in breathing. It started the year after our youngest left for college. The house got quieter, like we were suddenly strangers in a space too big for what we'd become. I chalked it up to adjustment. She called it drifting. We'd been married 24 years. The kind of marriage people call stable, because it doesn't make noise. We paid bills on time. We had dinner every night. We laughed at reruns of shows we'd seen a dozen times. And we lived next door to the same people for 12 of those years, Peter and Diane. Retired early, no kids, always outside trimming hedges or waving as they watered the lawn. Good neighbors, safe neighbors. Peter was friendly. Bit too friendly sometimes, if I'm honest, but I never thought anything of it. I mean, he was pushing 60. Gray hair, weird tan lines, harmless. Or so I thought. The first sign that something was off came the night of our anniversary. I'd made reservations. Her favorite place, the seafood place by the pier with the overpriced wine and terrible parking. She told me she didn't feel like going out. Said she had a headache. Wanted to rest. So I picked up takeout, brought it home, lit a candle, and tried to make the best of it. She spent the evening scrolling her phone. Didn't touch her food, didn't say goodnight. Later that week, Diane caught me in the driveway, asked if we were okay, said I seemed a little down. I shrugged it off, told her things were fine. She gave me a strange look, like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. The emotional distance grew from there. I started getting reminder texts from my wife, things I used to just do naturally. Don't forget the trash. You need to talk to the plumber. We haven't been intimate in months, you know? That last one hit harder than she realized because I had noticed and I had tried, but she kept brushing me off, telling me I wasn't present, that I'd gotten too predictable, that I didn't see her anymore. I asked her what she meant by that, see her how. She just said, "You don't get it," then walked away. I started working late more often after that, not because I had to, because it felt better than being in a house with someone who only spoke to correct me. At least at the office, I could breathe. One night, around 10 p.m., I came home and noticed something strange. Peter's porch light was off. That never happened. He was obsessive about keeping it on, even installed a motion sensor last spring, and his car wasn't in the driveway, neither was mine. I'd parked on the street that day, closer to the mailbox, which meant my wife didn't know I was home. I walked in through the side door. No lights on, except the one in the kitchen. I heard a low voice, a man's voice, laughter, then silence. I stepped quietly into the hallway, heart thudding, and that's when I heard the back door slide open. Footsteps, then the unmistakable clink of 2 mugs being rinsed in the sink. By the time I turned the corner, she was alone again, wiping the counter, calm, casual. "Oh, you're home early." I looked at the mugs. 2, still warm. "Who was here?" I asked. She didn't blink. "Diane?" She stopped by for tea. I stared at her, then I nodded. Didn't argue. But I knew. Diane didn't drink tea. She was a coffee at dawn kind of woman, and the voice I heard in that kitchen didn't belong to any woman. It was the voice I'd heard next door for 12 years. Peter. The next morning, she was humming in the kitchen, like the night before hadn't happened. She poured herself coffee, asked if I wanted toast, and kissed my cheek on her way to the laundry room. I stood there staring at the mug in my hand, the same one she'd rinsed the night before. Still smelled faintly like lemon and mint. She'd lied without hesitation and smiled while doing it. That weekend, we had dinner with our daughter and son-in-law. First time in months. She was warm, engaged, kept touching my arm when she laughed. To anyone watching, we looked like the couple that raised 2 kids and still flirted across the table. She even said at one point, "We've had our rough patches, but he's always been the steady one." Our daughter smiled. I forced one, because I wasn't steady. I was unraveling, just doing it quietly. I started to take long walks at night, sometimes just around the block, sometimes further, gave me space to think without reacting. One of those nights, I saw Peter leaving our driveway, not walking, driving. He slowed down when he saw me, then smiled and gave a small wave, like nothing at all was wrong. I didn't wave back, I just kept walking. And when I got home, I asked my wife if anyone stopped by. She was folding laundry on the bed, casual as ever. Just Diane again. She brought over a book she thought I'd like. That night, I couldn't sleep because it was the second time she'd swapped Diane in for Peter. And Diane, she'd been quieter than usual, didn't wave from her porch anymore, didn't ask about our daughter, didn't even say hi when we passed her in the store. I started to think she knew something. Or worse, that she'd said something. And maybe my wife had lied to me and to her. A few days later, it rained. Hard. I got home soaked from a late meeting. When I walked through the front door, the first thing I noticed was the smell, wine and vanilla. Candles were lit. My wife was sitting cross-legged on the couch in a silk robe I hadn't seen in months. "Thought we could have a night in," she said. "No TV, just us." I said nothing, just nodded and dried off. We talked for a bit, small talk, weather, politics, nothing that meant anything. Then she asked the question, "Are you mad at me?" I looked at her. She wasn't smiling. She looked nervous. I asked why she thought that. "You've been distant. Walking all the time, barely saying anything. I feel like you don't trust me." I opened my mouth, closed it, then said, "Do I have a reason not to?" She didn't answer, just got up, went to the kitchen, and started pouring wine. That was the night I realized something. She wasn't going to confess, not unless she had no other choice, and I wasn't going to beg her for the truth. I needed evidence, not just gut feelings, not just lies I could spot. Something solid, something undeniable. And I didn't have to dig for it, because 2 nights later, someone else brought it to my door. The knock came late, not the kind of polite tap you expect from a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. This was firm, fast, desperate. When I opened the door, Diane stood there, no shoes, no umbrella, hair soaked from the drizzle that had just started. Her eyes swollen, red, wild. She didn't say hello. She just handed me her phone. "You need to see this." It was a video, blurry at first, like she'd fumbled to open the camera. It started on a dark driveway, my car gone. Hers still parked. Peter's voice came first, muffled, then clearer as he walked into frame. And then, my wife. They weren't arguing. They weren't kissing. They were laughing. About me. About how he never notices anything. About how they only needed another month to figure things out. About how he'd forgive anything eventually. He always does. Then came the worst part. She said, smiling, "He's still blaming himself, you know. I told him he doesn't see me anymore, and he believed it." I'd stopped the video. Diane was watching me, not with pity, but with something closer to rage. "I didn't know until tonight," she said. "I saw her sneak in from our yard. Peter thought I was asleep." She handed me a second file. Photos this time, screenshots from her Ring camera. The timestamps matched nights I remembered staying late at work. Nights I came home to wine glasses in the sink and a headache on the couch. I sat down on the bottom stair, still holding her phone. Diane sat too, not close, not far, just there. "I don't know what I'm going to do," she said quietly, "but I thought you should know first." I nodded. "Thank you." She sent the video to me and left without another word. The house was quiet again. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't confront her. I just watched the video again, this time with the sound off. Her smile burned more than the words, because it was the smile I hadn't seen in months. The one I used to think was gone. Turns out she just saved it for him. The next morning, I made her coffee, exactly how she liked it, placed it gently on her side of the bed. She stirred, blinked, and smiled. "You're up early." I smiled back. "Yeah, just had a lot on my mind." She sipped the coffee and leaned back against the pillows. "Maybe we should take a trip sometime. Just us. Reset." I nodded. "We should. Soon." Because I'd already booked my meeting with a lawyer. And I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing when it was coming. I told the lawyer everything. No dramatics. Just dates, facts, files. He didn't ask twice. Said the video alone would crush any attempt at contesting separation terms. The Ring footage sealed it. We'd been married long enough that most things were joint, except the lies. He told me to act normal. Buy time. Don't let her see it coming. That part was easy. I'd been doing it for months. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the role she thought I'd forgotten how to play. I laughed at her stories. I kissed her forehead when I left for work. I listened to her ask about vacation flights. Florida, she said. Maybe Charleston. She had no idea I'd already filed. No idea Diane and I were quietly, bitterly aligned in the background. Diane was staying with her sister. Peter had texted her 3 times. She showed me each one. You're overreacting. Don't ruin this. We can fix this. Diane never replied, just blocked his number. I didn't even ask her to. She just said, I want him to be as alone as he made us. One night, my wife was in the shower when I pulled the travel folder from her desk drawer. It had 3 flight confirmations, all to Savannah. 2 names, hers and Peter's. She'd booked them 2 weeks prior. During one of the weekends, I thought we were reconnecting. She was going to leave me eventually. She just wanted to make sure she had somewhere better to land. The next morning, I left the folder on the table, opened, alongside a single envelope. Inside, a printed copy of the filing, my signature, the case number, the date and time she'd need to appear. No words, no note, just the reality. She didn't call, didn't text, just came home late, still in work clothes, and sat across from me at the table. Didn't cry, didn't yell. You planned this, I nodded. I did. I thought you didn't know. I did. Silence. Then, bitterness. You're going to throw everything away because of one mistake? I didn't answer, so she laughed, short and bitter. You think this makes you strong, walking away like you didn't fail me first? That part made me laugh, just once. Short. Cold. Then I stood up, walked upstairs, and closed the bedroom door behind me. She moved out 3 days later. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't take everything. Just enough to start again. The divorce was finalized 41 days later. No contest. No arguments over the house. I'd already bought her out. No arguments over the retirement. She didn't qualify for half. The only sticking point was the travel miles. She wanted them. I gave them to her. Let her use them to fly anywhere except backward. I didn't ask our kids to pick sides. They were adults, smart enough to draw their own lines. They stayed civil with her for the most part. But the distance showed. They visited me more, stopped asking how she was. Our daughter once said, "She's not the woman who raised me." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. Peter's house was quiet for weeks. Then one morning, I saw the moving truck. He didn't wave this time, just kept his head down as the last box was hauled into the back. I noticed something odd. It wasn't her helping him load the boxes. It was a younger man. No hugs, no kisses, just help, just silence. She never moved in, never even showed up. A few days later, Diane dropped off a small bag, a few things of mine I'd loaned Peter over the years. A wrench, a power drill, a book I forgot I owned. We stood in the driveway. She looked better, lighter. He's moving to Arizona, she said. I raised an eyebrow. With someone else. That part made me pause. Not her? I asked. Diane shook her head. No, she stopped answering him weeks ago. Apparently she figured if you were done with her, she might as well start fresh. I didn't ask more, didn't care. But it was a strange feeling, knowing she'd been left behind by the man she risked it all for. No closure, no payoff, just silence, and a lease on a condo she couldn't afford on her own. A month later, she texted me. Hope you're well. Just wanted to say sorry. I wasn't fair to you. You didn't deserve any of that. I stared at the screen for a long time, then turned the phone over. Didn't respond. I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved in with her cousin 2 towns over. Still working the same job, still smiling on social media, but never quite the same. One photo caught my attention months later, her birthday. Candlelit cake, small group. Caption, grateful for the real ones. No partner, no ring, no Peter. I never told anyone this, but that night I slept better than I had in years. Because closure doesn't always come through revenge. Sometimes it comes through absence, and sometimes karma doesn't hit like a storm. It hits like silence. And as always, thanks for watching, like, share, and let's know what you think. See you in the next one. Peace.